Hello, and welcome to Tope Sprinkle. Today's video is a very special one to me. It's a love story between myself and my garden, showing the transformation of my new build garden in 1 year, from the plain boring new build garden that you know and you're seeing now to this. So if you're interested in seeing my journey transforming my new build garden in 1 year, all the things that have happened, then keep on watching because that's what this video is about. From the moment we started looking to buy a house, one of my key focus was the garden, and that's something that I'd really been looking forward to working on. My goal was to have a space to entertain people, whose friends, family, and I also wanted to grow some vegetables. So I got around to planning. This was the day that we got the key to our house. So literally the day we completed our house, that's the clip that you're seeing now. We had the tape measure, so I used that, and I had some wool from my hair in my bag or something, so I ended up using that as well. And my goal here in this clip that you're watching was to mark out where the sun reached, the areas in the garden, you know, how far the sun was in a certain area, to kind of map out what I wanted to do. I was going to build a deck. That was always the vision, and essentially that's what I'm doing here. And I watched the way the sun moved throughout the garden for the whole day and the next, and I kept marking the certain areas just to know where was a good spot to put what. And I think that's something that you should do when you get your new build garden, or even if you're planning any garden at all. It's important for you to map out the sun so that if you're growing vegetables, you know where they should be. If you're going to be hosting, you know the areas of the garden that will be cool, depending on what time of the day. And it's just really good for you to watch how the sun moves in your garden. So on the day, I found some stones around where our shed should have gone, and I wrapped the twine, the wool that I had around the stones, and I just set those on the floor, and I used that to map certain areas using the tape measure. Here I was measuring what my raised bed size was going to be like. I had certain dimensions in mind, so I was trying to see if it worked, see how the sun was in that area, and just kind of like plan. Really, that's a key thing that you want to do. At this point, I didn't draw up a physical plan like on paper or anything like that. It was all up in my head. But at the beginning of the year, before spring this year, I ended up drawing a plan because I wanted to make some changes and add a second bed, and yeah, you see all that in this video. Well, I'm gonna leave you with my voice from May 2022, a little throwback for you, just with some updates as to what I was actually doing at the time. This is the garden, and this is what I have to work with. It's a north-facing garden, so it doesn't get sun throughout the day or in all the areas. As you can see, there are some areas here that don't get the sun, and so what I've tried to do is to use some thread to map out where the sun gets to. And then I'm planning to build a pergola somewhere there, and then in that corner I want to plant some food crops, mostly vegetables and a few fruits, depending on how much I can take. And then at that area also, I'll just move closer. I've tried to map out where the sun gets to. So earlier on there was some bit of sun here, and then now it has moved back. So earlier on, this is where I mapped, then I mapped it all the way down there, and so that's what it looks like. I'm thinking of putting my raised plant beds here. So I've got the thread also. I'm thinking of doing a 3x8 raised bed, so it will just sit there. I would prefer to put it on this side, but then this bit of the house doesn't get that much sun, so I think I'll just have to work with this side of the house. And then this is where I think I want to put the pergola. So I'm thinking of building a 10x12, and I'm hoping that that's not too much. That's not going to eat into the space that I have. So I've mapped with the thread again, and then it goes this way, and then this is where I plan to put like a walkway to access the pergola, and I've tried to match that through to where the patio doors open. And yeah, things are looking okay. I think this should be a decent size pergola. The garden slopes slightly, So I'm going to have to walk around that, and my carpentry skills are really zero, but I believe that I can do it, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's it for now. About a month after we moved in June 2022, I believe, I ordered my raised bed kit from a company called Linkerboard, and that's how it looks like. They come with all the parts, and then you have like pieces that fit together to form your raised bed, and you can have it as high or as wide as you want. And so I got this and I set it up. I initially wanted to use wood, but yeah, the wood that I had considered, they were just too expensive. I was looking to use cedar or oak, and that's because they last for years, they're resistant to rot, and yeah, it was just too expensive. Anyways, setting this up was quite difficult to do by myself, so I got my friend to help me. If you want to see how that happened or the whole process, then there's a video on the channel that you should check out. I show how to set it up, and then I also show how I actually filled the raised bed. You can find the link to that video in the description box. I filled it up with some compost and topsoil, and then I also added bloodfish and bone. This is me just showing that I had some strawberries up on the fence, but I ended up moving them down to the next level on the fence because yeah, it was just too difficult to reach those ones. I always had to climb like a stool to access the strawberries, to water them, to look at them, and then that's just too much stress. So don't put your plants, your hanging plants, too high. I know that most of us have specific items that we want in our dream gardens. For some, it may be like a specific plant. Some people want like roses, some people want climbing plants, you know, some people want plants of a certain color. Some people, it's just, you know, having one specific grill for them, or they want like a pergola, or you know, there's always that one thing. And for me, it was my egg chair. I wanted a double egg chair that could fit my husband and I just look forward to us sitting out there on the egg chair, you know, having a drink, chatting, laughing. And the day my egg chair arrived, even though the garden was nowhere near what I wanted it to be, I was super excited to set it up. My husband and I got to doing that, you know. It was a whole process together, and it was a nice little mini DIY project. I'll try to link where I got the chair from, just in case you want to buy it or get something similar. Our garden sofa set arrived about a few weeks after the egg chair arrived, and so we got together to put the sofa set together. So myself, my husband, and my friend, we got together, and even though it was quite late, as you can see, it was dark, and at different points our sensor lights had would go off and come back on. I really wanted to get it done, and because I was so excited about my garden, my husband and my friend indulged me. So we stayed out there in the evening working to put the chair together. We didn't actually complete the whole thing in a day, but yeah, we set up some of it, and I was just really excited and happy. And at some point, like, I even wanted to arrange them to kind of imagine what the garden was going to be like, and they indulged me for a bit, but at some point they got sick of me and we had to go in and call it a night. Yeah.
No, this place is not. So when it's flat, And that's why she wants to do deck. You know your deck cannot be straight. That's straight.
Yes, sir.
In and go to. Can they come?
Of course. Why?
Oh, you want it to bend. And there. Would you like to bend that?
As you've heard me mention at different points already, I was going to build a pergola and a deck. Well, a deck and a pergola in that order. And I had to get rid of the turf around the area that I wanted. I tried to do this by hand. I had seen videos showing how people use like garden tools to remove that. Haha, it was a disaster. My soil was really hard and it was really difficult. I got a turf cutter, so I hired one for a day and I tried to use this to get rid of the turf, and it was still difficult. As you can see me struggling here, it was such a pain. Anyways, my husband figured out that by reducing the height, so I had done this to be very deep, and he really struggled because down in the soil there were stones and all sorts of rubbish things in there. So by reducing the height, I managed to get off more turf, and then that's how we ended up taking them off. Eventually, I managed to get the turf off, and this is what the garden looked like. I had fabulous plans to set up the deck and pergola myself. I had done so much research, gotten all the materials, but yeah, after the struggle of getting off the turf, after discussing with my husband, he's not much of a DIY person. I wanted to do it myself. We decided to get people to come in to help set up the deck. So my deck measures 3.6 meters by 3.6 meters. Initially, the plan was to have a pergola that was open and then have some fabric interwoven through as a form of shade or weather protection or cover, and I hadn't gotten that. You'd see that we used some temporary blue tarpaulin. I hadn't gotten those because they hadn't come through from Amazon. But even though the material that we got was much stronger, we realized soon enough that the wind was super strong that would have damaged that as well. So if you're gonna do a pergola, if you're going to keep it open, that's fine, but if you want to use some sort of fabric, you have to consider the wind in your area. Yeah, that's very important. So the guys also helps with setting up the pathway, and yeah, they got that done as well. This is the temporary tarpaulin that we use, and this is what the garden looks like at the end of the first year. We went back to arrange our furniture on there, and that was it for the year. Funny enough, it got quite cold, so we didn't get to stay outside in the garden so much, but it was fun and it made me happy. Actually very happy because I got to harvest some fruits and vegetables for the first time. Our grass was nearly dead, so we had to work on that. We had to water, feed, and just try to care for it, and it came back, and that was good. And then earlier this year, to start off my garden transformation, I added a second raised bed, and this is me just showing how I set up the bed. Put in some cardboards, added some compost, topsoil, blood, fish and bone to get all the nutrients that those plants and veggies need. And my plan for this bed was to grow vegetables, so mostly like salad greens and root vegetables like carrots. Currently in this bed I have kale, spinach, lettuce, carrots and onions. Remember I said the plan for my garden was to have space to grow fruits and vegetables and also host people. Well, I decided to draw up that plan to help me visualize things. Also in terms of like the plants and vegetables that I wanted, just to know what they were like. And I decided to link those two areas. So the idea was to put in some stones in the areas where I had items growing in pots, so plants growing in pots. And that's what I started doing here. And this is that process of setting that up. I wanted a wavy design. And yeah, the video of how I did this is actually on the channel. You can check that out. It's a more detailed video. So that's kind of the plan. I then decided to paint the pergola, so paint the post and the top with grey paint, and I'll link the paint here just if you're interested in getting the color or type of paint. And that's what that process is looking like here. So behind the garden you see my raised bed, you can see my compost bin, and all of this was in my plan. At this point I had only done the stones around the bed towards the pergola, but you'd see later on that I decided to extend it towards the compost bin. At the end of last year I'd added in some solar stake lights that give this flame effect, and so I was just removing them to move them out of the way while I painted. They haven't been the best things. Yeah, when I got them it seemed like they were working, but they've actually been trashed. They don't all come on at night, and yeah, I'm looking for better options. So if you have solar stick lights in your gardens that stay up all night and stay up consistently, please leave your recommendations in the comment section and I'll make sure to check them out. Thank you. And behind me there you can see the link between my first raised bed and the pergola where I have all my pots. And yeah, so that's what that looks like. At this point, can I please ask that you like this video if you do like it, if you've been enjoying it, if you've learned something new, if I've given you ideas, if you've just found it helpful, please let me know by liking it. Here I was just showing how I get off like paint stains because I wanted to keep the rest of the area in the natural wood color. So make sure to wipe ASAP with water and just like a fabric. And yeah, okay, back to my plea. Also, if you're not subscribed, please make sure to subscribe, join me, join my community, and help me reach like a bigger audience, help me reach certain goals on YouTube. Join me on this journey. If you like any of my videos, you can check like videos on the channel, watch them and join. So this is what the pergola is looking like. It's been 4 days since I added the first coat. I'm just going to go ahead to add the second coat of paint today. It's looking quite good. I mean, there are some gaps when you look closely, like there, but I think it has gone on nicely. Looks quite good. We had decided, as I said, to cover the pergola with something more sustainable. So we got people to come help us, and yeah, that appointment was taking longer. So I got impatient. The weather was getting nice, so I decided to uncover the furniture and I played around. Initially, the egg chair was on this side of the garden, as you can see on the right side, but we ended up moving it to the left side, and you see that later on in this video. I added in some solar lights that I had from last year, and and I had just one set last year. I got the other one and then added that in, cleaned the deck, you know, with a very small broom, which wasn't a good idea, but yeah, it worked. And I think I just like to work really hard. And yeah, the garden was kind of ready without the weatherproof and weather protection and privacy screens. I decided to add some plants to the other side of the garden around the compost bin and the other raised bed, and that's what I'm doing here. Again, this is in the video showing how I did my decorative edging with stones and edging. I added a codling red star and 2 clematis plants. So I chose these plants because they are good for clay soil. They work with clay soil and they work with the area, and so far it's been good with the codling red star. But I had some hiccups with the clematis. I actually thought by now they'll be super grown and flowering, but things haven't gone the way I've planned. And that's the thing with gardening, you always learn and things don't usually go the way you plan, and it's just how you bounce back and how you move on from those things. At the end of that process, this is what my garden looked like from the top. I just needed to cover the pergola to make it summer ready. I had a light, I had a solar stick light, I had my pathway, I had my plants growing, my vegetables and fruits. I had certain items in pots, I had certain items in the ground, and I was loving it. A few weeks later, and voila, I got some new people in to help cover the pergola. They used plywood, they used felt, shed felt, and that's what they used to cover the pergola. And I liked the color combination because yeah, essentially as you'd see, the pergola itself is gray, the deck is in natural wood, the plywood is in the shade of like natural wood, and the felt is gray, and everything just blends and looks beautiful, in my opinion. I don't know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Say hi, baby.
No.
Say hi. Yeah.
That's one too.
New apprentice. So we've got the timber in to provide some privacy screen, and then on this end got those there and all that mess. Yeah, that's what it's looking like. I made an updated plan of what the garden was to look like as I changed my mind and changed the plans, and this is what that looks like. I linked all the areas together: the first bed, the second bed, the decking and pergola area, as well as the compost bin and shed. I put stones, decorative stones. I moved the egg chair from the right to the left to give a better view of the garden. I put the hydrangeas at the two corners just opposite themselves. I have strawberries on the wall. In pots I have potatoes, 1 tomato, some peppers, blueberries and strawberries, 1 in a pot. I have some calla lilies as well. I also have some calla lilies on the deck, and that's currently not in this plan because I forgot to update that bit. In raised bed 1, I have tomatoes and a variety of peppers, so chili, bell, scotch bonnet and long peppers. I also have onions, radishes, basil and marigolds growing in bed 1. In bed 2, I have onions, kale, spinach, carrots and lettuce. I also have rockets in bed 2. Currently not on the plan, that was the last minute addition. I have 1 codling red star and 2 clematis plants beside the compost bin, in the area between the compost bin and raised bed 2. And then there's a walkway to the decking and pergola area, and just to the right of that is where I have my barbecue grill just outside the door. And yeah, that's pretty much how the garden is looking at the moment. I love it. It looks good. It makes me happy, and I was able to achieve my 2 goals of having a space to socialize, host, relax and just chill. I walk here from time to time. I just go out there to relax in the evenings. I hosted friends for my birthday out in the garden, and we ended up sitting on the decking area. I sit out here with friends when we have people over and just chill and gist and relax. It's quite relaxing, and in the evenings it's a really warm space. That's it for now. I'm sure I'm going to make changes as the years go by, because that's the thing with gardens. There's always a temptation to change something or improve something. For one, I think I'm going to add another clematis between bed 1 and 2. I have 2 plants currently in pots and I don't want them to go to waste, so I'll most likely put them there. And yeah, I'll just leave it to see the results. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you found this helpful, and if you'd like to know how much everything costs, although I think that will be a pain and I'm not sure I really want to know, because I made some mistakes, especially with the decking and pergola. We didn't set it up in the most efficient way. But if you'd want to know or what it could cost, then I'm happy to do a video about that. I'll have to search through my records. But yeah, if there's a significant demand for it, then I'm happy to